Namaste and greetings. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Healing the Planet from Within. My name is Santosha and I talk about all things personal development and spiritual development to improve your life. In this video, I wanted to discuss my spiritual journey through different beliefs and cultures and religions, and particularly mention those key moments that were life-changing for me, that really made a huge difference in my own spiritual development, my personal development and spiritual development. I'm going to be discussing Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, and Hinduism. I just wanted to mention here that I am not an expert at these religions at all. I only have a drop of knowledge about all of them, but it's those main moments of when I was experienced that white light energy that made a huge difference to my spiritual development journey. And I explain when that happened in certain religions, but also those other experiences that guided me on my journey of spiritual development. So please forgive me if I make any mistakes in your religion. I don't say things properly. I don't know terminologies. I'm still learning. And I love to learn, but I don't know everything. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to try and do my best to go through those key points in order of the experiences that I've had and the insights and information it gave me to advance further in my spiritual journey. It's been over 20 years now that I have been craving something in the unknown, and this moves me forward in looking for those key elements where I can feel the God source, where I can learn about raising my energy vibration, as that's the term I use, in order to feel God within every aspect of my being. So I'll start from the beginning, and these are just from my personal experiences, and it's okay if you've had something different. So please feel free to share in the comments below. So this is just from my personal experiences. Okay, so this is the second time I am going through and editing the video. It's been a long journey and a lot of work. But at this point in the video, I wanted to mention that you're going to listen to different stories, different experiences that I've had on my journey. Now, these stories are moments when I realized something about my spiritual development. So these are personal experiences that actually happened to me. I was born in a Dutch Christian Reformed family, and we went to church twice on Sunday, and we had catechism class on Wednesday. To me, it was boring. I didn't have any interest in reading the Bible, even though they said it's a good idea to read the Bible. So I've read very little of the Bible. There are a few reasons why I didn't read the Bible at the time. The first one that popped into my mind is that it didn't contain this juicy good essence. It just felt like a book. And as a teenager, reading a thick book was kind of a boring thought at the time. So, I mean, this is just from my experience. I'm just telling you my story, yeah? I even went to a Christian school through grade school and high school. My overall experience is that it was very critical and very judgmental. I remember one time very clearly sitting in church, and the minister was telling everybody that God is angry and vengeful, and if you didn't repent your sins, you'd be going to hell. I turned around and told the neighborhood kids who I was babysitting at the time this exact thing, if you don't repent your sins, you're going to hell. So I lost my babysitting job, and I couldn't understand why. So I asked my mom, I said, why, and she didn't really have an answer. She just said, well, you're not supposed to be talking about this kind of stuff to other people. And it was that point in time when I recognized, I was like, so what the minister is telling us is not truth for everybody? I didn't understand it. But also, what I was taught about God is that he was very angry and vengeful. But the God inside my heart, I felt was full of deep love and compassion. So it was a bit conflicting according to what I was told compared to what I was experiencing. But one pivotal moment that made a huge difference was my grandfather, and he told me to pray to God. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't really have a whole lot of faith in this process at the time. He says, no, just pray to God, ask him for whatever you want. But remember to give him thanks. And I probably looked a bit confused. So then he said, just talk to God as if he's a normal person, have a conversation with him. Okay. I mean, I remember then I was a teenager. I don't know when it was my grandfather gave me this wisdom, but I do remember this moment as a teenager. I woke up in the middle of the night in total fear. My heart was pulsing, racing, and I was scared. And in that moment, I climbed out of bed and did, the prayer position on my knees and said, God, please, I don't want to feel this fear. I want to feel peace and love. And within 30 seconds, I suddenly felt this energy come over me that was filled with peace and love. I felt peace and love. And it was that moment that I went, God's listening. It really works. This is real. Okay. Hi. Right now I'm editing the video. And as I'm editing, I'm realizing a few other points that I should be talking about that were pivotal moments in my life. This one's related to Christianity, so it's a good place to put this in the video. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, something like this. I was single, and this cute boy was at the beach, and he was talking to me, inviting me to his church. So I thought, yeah, why not? And when I arrived at the church Sunday morning, I met his wife and 5 kids, and he was encouraging me to get baptized. Now, I had already been baptized as a child. They put a few drops of water on the baby's forehead. But they wanted to dip me in a whole bathtub of water. So this was a new experience for me. And I thought, okay, why not? It's an experience. I like to learn new things. And so they gave me a change of clothes and dipped me in the water. And then they all waited, eyes wide open, waiting for me to speak in tongues. And I thought, what on earth are they wanting? Like, they're expecting something from this experience to occur. So they took me into the back room for counseling or waiting to see what would happen. Because it was disappointing the audience, that I didn't speak in tongues right after the baptism. And I said, what do you mean speak in tongues? And someone finally gave me a demonstration. And I said, quite nonchalant, I do that meditation all the time. And they all looked at me in shock. They were like, what? And it's true. When I was in meditation, I was doing a form of standing meditation at the time, which was like a qigong. The energies are flowing through me. And I would tone a particular tone that would naturally come to me. And I remember my vibration going up and up and up, where I would see this angel and this particular intonation. And then this conversation started flowing that was not in any language that I know. So that was an experience, and that's what they were expecting me to speak in tongues after being baptized. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment in my life, because I realized, oh, I'm already doing this. I guess it was a confirmation. So those are those moments in the Christian religion that brought me, that taught me lessons and brought me closer to God. Okay, so then we'll move on to Buddhism and my experiences there. I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with Buddhism. I did attend Vipassana twice. Vipassana is a 10-day program where you're not allowed to speak to anyone or look at anyone, and you're just focusing on your meditation. You're not even allowed to move when you're meditating, just to be there in that meditation space. I did that once in Australia when I was pregnant with my daughter, and then once again in Thailand. And both experiences were different. Both experiences I walked away with an experience, not a whole lot of insights there for me. Not that I can think of at the top of my mind anyways, because this is not a scripted video. I'm doing this like in the moment, right? So, okay. And it's difficult to remember everything in the moment of recording, but as I'm editing, I'm remembering that there was a Buddhist center about 20 minutes where I lived in Australia, and I would go there maybe twice a year just because it was really peaceful. It was on acreage in nature. There was a vegetarian restaurant there, a library, and there was a garden of enlightenment where I would sit and meditate in. So, but from my overall experience of this place, it was kind of barren, lacking in energy, if you like. I didn't feel any sacred place there. I didn't feel anything about Buddhism there. It was just a nice place to enjoy nature and the food. Yeah, but I do, have those moments of recall about the very basics about Zen and non-attachment and being kind and respectful towards other living things. This is what I know of Buddhism. Up until this point anyways. And then the one thing that was a pivotal moment in my life was when I traveled from Rishikesh, India to Dharamsala, and I stood in front of the Dalai Lama, and I didn't know why I was going there. I thought, okay, why not? I mean, he's famous. I'm only 12 hours away. I'm going to go. I didn't understand why people went to go see this man, right? But when I stood in front of him, the moment was amazing. Synchronicities fell in place, and I ended up walking up this set of stairs and this set of stairs and this set of stairs. Everybody, hundreds of people are sitting around. Nobody's sitting in front of him. Well, there was hundreds of people sitting in front of him, of course, but a lot of people, they couldn't fit. But I just walked past all these people up all these stairs, and suddenly I'm standing in front of him. Well, the image that I got the first time I saw him, I was standing behind at least 10 to 15 cameras. Expensive cameras, big ones, phone cameras. They were all set up there recording the Dalai Lama. And I remember looking at him through all these cameras, and I saw him in the distance, hundreds of people away. And I was like, my legs started shaking. Now, the only time that happened to me was when I was standing in sacred land. That's another story, not religion-based. So this video is about my experience of the different religions, cultures, beliefs, religions. Okay, so when my legs shake, I know it's a place of power. There's something there. It's like my physical body's telling me this is something. And so I decided to sit on the step there, still in front of the Dalai Lama, but I couldn't see him because I'm sitting. And I closed my eyes, and straight away I was in a trance state meditation. Straight away. Now, I used to work to get to that space, go through my techniques and strategies in order to get to this higher state of being. But in his presence, I was there instantly. And all I saw was light, white light, and I felt peace, love, and joy. And I was like, oh, this is bliss. I was feeling pure bliss in that moment. And And still today in my meditation, I was thinking, if I bring to mind that moment, I can almost capture it's difficult to get the entirety of that moment, right? It's just to energize that in our body instantly is such a blessing. So that's my experience with Buddhism, okay? Now we'll move on to Islam and the Muslim religion. This, again, synchronicities fell into place. I was doing energy healing with a client, and God was calling me to learn more. This client arm was twitching, and she says, look, they're doing this. And I was thinking, I don't understand this. I'm doing something basic, like looking for trapped emotions, because I was a certified emotion code practitioner, and I was practicing this modality at the time. This is maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I didn't know, I didn't understand. But I had an inkling, a feeling to contact a local mosque and find out what they knew about healing. And when I contacted, I spoke to the imam. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but he referred me to someone who invited me to his place. Now, this Muslim man was highly educated. His wife converted, I believe, from Christianity to Islam, and I had the greatest blessing. He invited me to his house, and where I could be in the room where he was chanting the Quran over this woman, this young woman, and her arms twitched occasionally. She was sick, and he was chanting the Quran over her very loudly, very loudly. And during this chanting, I felt such deep peace and love, and all I saw was white light. And it was in that moment that I realized there was something in the Quran I didn't know yet. And I felt so honored when he handed me a copy of the Quran. And so I started reading it. He also directed me and sent me a journal article about human sickness and the jinn. So I was able to read the scholarly article. So keep in mind that at this stage, I had already completed 5 university degrees in counseling and psychology and a master's of education, but with a couple of grad certificates in human resource management and childhood and youth studies. So when someone handed me a journal article, a scientific journal article on physical body healing through spiritual practices, my mind was like blown. I was like, wow, so impressed. And from that moment, I started to see these patterns within the Muslim community that people are seeking the highest truth in everything. So for me, this is my practice. I'm always seeking the truth and having more experiences and learning more things about all cultures, beliefs, and religions in order to advance my spiritual practice. And here, the Muslim community, I mean, wow, total respect, because this is the mindset they have, is seeking the highest truth and experience and the highest experiences. It was absolutely fascinating for me at the time to learn this. One of these pivotal moments going, oh, wow. And I learned that the Quran has way more knowledge than the Bible has in it. In Islam, they respect and recognize Jesus as a messenger of God, but they have so much more knowledge. And I was wow, I had no idea. But for me, it was all in that feeling. That feeling of God, the white light and the feeling of peace and love. Wow. So that was a pivotal moment in my life. Yeah, pivotal moment. And what that did was brought me back to God, because the Christian religion, I didn't connect with the God source from the Christian religion. As a child, I had a connection with God, but the definition of God in the Christian religion, it could just confuse me. I didn't understand it. It didn't resonate with my own truth and what I felt inside. But this confused me so much that I kind of disconnected myself from the God Christian religion. But at the same time, my whole life has been driven by this desire to feel something I couldn't name, this God's love. But I didn't relate it to God, the feeling that I was craving inside, because of the Christian religion tainted my understanding of God. So this experience with the reading of the Quran, I started to feel what God could feel like, completely different. Now, God is not religious based, but religion is a pathway to God. And there's so many different pathways to God, not even religion, but there's so many different pathways. This advice from this Muslim man, he told me that God is everything. And healing cannot be done without the permission of God. That was amazing. Okay, it was amazing. It was a huge moment of my life. Okay, so, all right, I want to give a bit of context as to why this is such a pivotal moment in my life. I'm really struggling to do this though, because it's quite expansive. But I walked into this experience with a particular mindset. You see, I left the Christian religion when I was 16, and I did not go to another church service after that. I didn't see it as very valuable. So therefore, I didn't see religion as very valuable, and I was seeking the God source, God's love, in other methods. I wanted this experience that I couldn't describe. I didn't even label it as God at this stage. I just wanted to feel something. So I went through martial arts, qigong, Reiki, all these types of things where I would feel this energy flowing through me, and it just felt like something that I needed, right? But here I am in another religion experiencing something completely different. And this man has so much love and devotion for God, Allah. And he talks about God, that God is everything. And I thought, that's what I know from my spiritual development practices. How come this belief is in religion? I think about it, it's absolutely hilarious. But it was that moment, that light bulb moment, that I was like, oh, wow, okay. The next religion I want to explore is Hinduism. Okay, before I go any further, I have to say that I love the expansiveness of Hinduism. It feels like I am in a spiritual playground and I'm having so much fun. I am totally in love with Lord Shiva and Parvati. And of course, Lord Ganesh has been with me for over 20 years. And it's just so expansive. For me, it's like a spiritual playground. Literally, it's so much fun. There's so much to explore, so much to do. The thing is that I'm always seeking that feeling of samadhi, that higher energy vibration. And there's a lot of different places, and it just feels so good. Okay. All right, let's get back to the video. I am currently in South India, and I've come to the realization, understanding, I've read a lot of books and done a lot of meditation, visited a lot of temples here. And Hinduism is not a religion, it's a way of life. My understanding and experience of it is that the belief system in the Vedantas is that there is only one God. Okay, I thought that this is probably a good place to pause the video for a moment and explain what I just said. Because everyone knows Hinduism as having many gods, right? Okay, from my personal experience, it is believed that there is only one God, one all-encompassing God, all right? Now, it's difficult to describe this overall concept of the many other gods, though. How can I explain this the best? God is expansive, unlimited, and creates the entire universe. So the all-encompassing God, of course, has created many things, right? So it makes sense that God created other images for us to respect and learn from. This makes sense when we think about the yogis who have gone before us on their spiritual development. They've done so much meditation and research and learning and talk to others and studying that they have advanced their spiritual practices this far. So we give them our respect and we gain knowledge from them. To me, it's the same with Lord Ganesha. I learned about Lord Ganesha 20 years ago, and he's known for removing obstacles. So when I need to switch my mind and focusing on removing obstacles, I bring the image of Ganesha to my mind. This doesn't mean I believe Ganesha is a god. This means I know God will work through this image of Ganesha to remove the obstacles in my life. Okay, I want to give you an example of how I use this in my everyday life, okay? I've recently been researching traditional Chinese medicine, and I have learned that there's certain emotions that affect our organs. Certain organs, okay? Now, I'm also a certified emotion code practitioner, and in that modality, we release trapped emotions from the physical body to improve health. So it makes sense to me to draw upon the knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine and recognize that some emotions also affect the organs. It's from two different sources. Okay, so I'm experimenting with this. Now I'm sitting in the ashram and I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to go into deep state of meditation. But then there's this thought that keeps going through my mind. I'm starting to panic. So I'm watching the story and I'm feeling this. I'm worried. I'm feeling worried and panic. Now, I can't deepen my meditation in this state, and I really wanted to have a deep meditation that day. So I said, Lord Ganesha, please take this obstacle from my meditation. Please take this worry. Let me know everything's going to be okay. Take it. You know, it doesn't belong to me. My life is yours. My life belongs to God. Take this information. Take this worry. And straight away, the worry was gone. God took my worry. But I used the image of Ganesha to steer my thoughts in that direction. It just made sense at the time. Now, if I'm not sitting in an ashram, I'm sitting in a different location, I may call on a different source like Gabriel, Jibril, archangels in order to help me shift something. It's just a way of focusing the mind, okay? And straight away after doing this, I was able to sit into my meditation very peacefully without this worry, but also my spleen was happier. So when I go to the different temples here in South India and some in North India, I feel so very blessed because each one feels so deeply sacred. And I know from my personal experience that there's only one God. See if I can pull it all together here for you. In some of these temples, there's these statues of Narayanas. These are human beings who have lived before us, who were on a spiritual development journey, and each one of them have a fascinating story. Now, people don't go to the temples and worship these Narayanas, but they give them their respect. Respect is one of the highest things I've noticed in Hinduism that pulls the community together, because everywhere you go,
people know how to respect this deeper level of respect because they do it in every single temple they go to. And because of that, I feel very sacred and safe in the Hindu culture, in the Hindu community, because they're very respectful people, respectful and compassionate. And to me, this is a spiritual practice. And I very greatly honor and respect. I'm very grateful to be here. Okay, so let me continue with the rest of the video now. I'm hoping that helped you understand. It's a complex subject. I think so.
I don't know where, like, yeah, the practice of Hinduism is so vast. It's just, it's impossible to discuss it in one video. And I don't even have like a drop of knowledge of it. I just have my own experiences. So let me go back to experiences. Okay, in Hinduism, in the Vedantas, there's the practice of yoga and the 8 limbs of Patanjali and Ayurveda medicine, and it's all part of the Vedantas. So anyone practices yoga is practicing Hinduism. But at the same time, it's not a religion. It's not a religion at all. It's a way of life for better living, right? Because yoga stretches the meridians, all the meridians actually affect the physical organs. So it improves your health. It improves the functioning of your organs, okay? So just yoga, the stretching of itself, the asanas part of yoga. We have the watered down version of yoga in the Western world that includes only asanas, but yoga itself is massive. Like it's way more advanced than just asanas, like where you dress in like tights and have a yoga mat and put your body in funny postures. Yoga is way more advanced. Okay, so but the stretching, the asanas is actually good for your physical health. Help your body function normally, okay? Which makes sense, because if your body's always lazy, sitting around, not getting exercise, it becomes lethargic and sick, right? We know this. But we can also look at it from a perspective of prana. From Chinese medicine, it's qi. In Japanese, it's ki. And this prana flows through our meridians, through our nadis and channels. And when it becomes stuck and stagnant, that's when the physical body gets sick. So my knowledge of energy healing comes from these 3 systems, qi, energy, ki, and prana.
Okay, wow. I am really ranting on here, and I seem to be blurring so many different topics together. So I thought I'd better pause the video and give you some context. What I'm talking about is my journey where I started to understand energy. Is when I was in the martial arts in my 20s. I practiced Aikido Jiu-Jitsu and then learned Qigong. And Aikido Jiu-Jitsu is from the Japanese system and Qigong is from the Chinese system. So they have different words for energy, Qi and Qi. And the systems, especially in Qigong, believe that when energy gets stuck in your body, that the body becomes physically sick. So Qigong is the practice of moving the body with these slow movements in order to move the qi through the body so that it doesn't get stuck and stagnant. Now, a daily practice like this is said to keep the body healthy. So I think that's what I'm referring to here, is because then I, eventually along the journey, started studying the yogic system and saw that they had an energy system. Well, the energy they referred to as prana, and a very similar energy system to the Chinese, to the Qigong, where they have the meridians and the energy is moving through the body. But in the yogic system, they have nadis and the prana is moving through, but it's very similarly linked. So I think I'm referring to that because the yogic system does come from the Vedantas. I think that's the knowledge I have anyways. So yeah, okay, let's continue. Yeah, hopefully I make some sense soon.
Okay, so I think here in India, my spiritual development has been mostly advanced by reading the conversations with Vashita and Rama and the yoga therapy books, exploring Swami Valala Ramalinga, and the light body, the creation of a light body, which is the practice of implementing and acting on as much compassion as you can towards others. In Ayurvedic medicine, I recently had a conversation with a doctor in Rishikesh, and he was saying the respect is the key for a healthy body and mind, improving your life. That's from Ayurvedic medicines, from Vedantas. You can see there's so many different elements and areas with which to work upon here.
Okay, I don't know why I'm talking so fast in this section of the video. I think it's because I'm just trying to gather all this information that I've learned in the past year, and it's just a bit overwhelming for me. Okay, so just to give you some idea of the books that I am currently absorbing, this is the Supreme Yoga. It's a translation of the Yoga Vashita. It's a conversation between Rama and Vashita. And each page is a new date. Like you're reading, the 23rd of March on one page, and the next page is the 24th of March. And the first few pages or dates, I was in tears. It was Rama speaking from his heart about his spiritual development journey and what he was conflicted with. And I was just crying and sobbing, and it made a huge, huge shift for me. Okay, so all these things along the journey are fascinating. This one I was really excited to discover last year because there are ashrams here for Swami Ramalinga, Swami Valalar. I'm confused with the name to call because there's few different names for this yogi who was a scientist who discovered the process of how to make a light body. So this is one of the books that I'm currently absorbing, and the different practices suggested, and it's just fascinating to read that there is a scientific process on how to create a light body. All right, so super valuable information. And the overall premise of this is that the more compassion you have, more compassion, that the more that the other issues, psychological, mental, emotional issues of negativity will disperse. And of course, when that happens, we do create a higher energy vibration in our body, right? So to deepen compassion deep into the cells, into every aspect of our being, does that then bring us into a light body, into a higher state of being? It's interesting to explore, right? Okay. So, of course, the other ones I'm going through that are very dear to me is the letters from Ramana Maharishi Ashram. And it's fascinating to read the stories of Ramana's personality, how he was thinking, what he was doing along his spiritual development journey as a jnana yogi. So this is really dear to me, and it's just, again, very fascinating. And of course, Arunachala Paranam, and there's so much knowledge. I'm just trying to absorb it all at once. And I think that's why I'm a little bit confused when I get to this part of the video. It's like how to describe everything I'm learning. Okay, and I mean, another book I was carrying in my backpack all the time. This one comes from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Hare Krishnas, and again, Easy Journey to Other Planets is similar to when we're talking about out-of-body consciousness. The Yoga Supreme also mentions multi-dimensional universes and out-of-body consciousness, and that there is life beyond death. Okay, so the Bhagavad Gita also mentions similar practices. And I don't know why I'm not talking about my experience with Hare Krishnas in this video, because I do have experiences and moments of going, oh wow, that makes a whole lot of sense on my journey. But anyways, okay, so let's get back to the video.
the 8 limbs of Patanjali, which is niyamas and yamas. Those are the first two, which is treating others with respect and kindness and doing right by others. And then the yamas, which is doing right by niyamas, which is doing right by yourself, which is becoming a better person, which is being kind and respectful to others. It's so advanced. Okay, so I'm getting a bit excited here because there's an immense amount of knowledge to learn. So I'm not sure where to go with this and to how to complete this video. My journey through the different cultures, beliefs, and religions has been guided so that I have this knowledge from many different perspectives. So where do I align myself? Like Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, or Hinduism, where do I align myself? Where do I feel the closest to?
I have to say this is an honest question for me, because when I was going through the different belief systems and religions and learning so much knowledge, I was confused. I was honestly questioning, do I belong here? Should I stay in this religion? It was quite confusing to progress through them and feel so much heart and connection to each one of them, to feel so deeply involved, and my heart moved, getting closer and closer to God, and I just felt so much love for each one. I was a bit confused as to where I sit, where I align.
My journey is most deeply aligned, or my heart is aligned, my soul is aligned with being a jnana yogi. A jnana yoga is dedicated to gaining knowledge, self-knowledge and knowledge, expansive knowledge from many different sources, for the sole purpose of spiritual development and getting closer and closer to God. I'm sure you could see that from this video to begin with, but this is my passion. And my deepest desire is to go to as many spiritual places as possible. I've been to temples here in India, sacred land in Australia, and all these places that like the reading of the Quran, the light energy I experienced from that. And now when I really feel like I've got a variety of different chants from so many places, Pranamadam, La ilaha illallah, all these things that I feel so much love and deepest blessings from the God source, just getting closer and closer.
So what I'm saying here is that I draw on a variety of different practices from different beliefs. And it sounds a bit confusing. Even I'm a bit confused as to why it's so jumbled up. But I'm guided in each and every moment by the God source. I feel into it, and in the moment, according to the source that I should be drawing upon in that moment. And it sounds a bit strange, doesn't it? I know it's a bit different, but I feel so much deep love every single time. My heart is filled with this love, peace, and joy to be so deeply in spiritual development. Yeah, okay.
And so I do my best to do the right thing and give as much respect and kindness and compassion and empathy. And I'm still developing, right? I'm still developing and I'm still learning. So I would love to go to sacred places around the world, like the Mecca. I feel this desire, like this is the next place for me to go. Also, Greece has popped into my mind, and to go to Delphi and to go there. I don't know why, But I know that when these things pop in my mind, it's like I need to go. It's like this craving, I have to go for my own personal development, spiritual development. This is my journey. It may be such a strange journey, but to me, it's fascinating, and it fills my heart with so much peace and love and joy to be on this journey. And I'm so deeply grateful to be here right now in South India, in Tamil Nadu. And I'm so very grateful for Ramana Maharishi, who was a very great Jnana yogi. And going to that ashram and learning about his life and the conversations he had with people, it put all the pieces of the puzzle together for me.
I just want to say thank you so much to everyone at the Ramana Maharishi Ashram. I am so very grateful for all the work you do. Absolutely amazing. So thank you so much.
It made my life make sense. Everything. And I'm so very grateful to be here. My path is aligned as a Jnana yogi. What does that mean? I'm seeking knowledge. I'm seeking knowledge. Knowledge of what it feels like to return to God, to be with God. I don't know how else to describe this. This is my journey. So, yeah, I don't know how to finish the video, but I just want to say right now, I'm so very grateful to my subscribers on YouTube, because you're witnessing my personal development and spiritual development. I haven't put a whole lot of videos up like every week, but you can still see the progress and the development. So I think this is a video that's just shared my whole journey. But feel free to go to my website, because I do talk about my van life. I lived in a van for 3 years, traveling around Australia, seeking for spirituality, seeking for something. And I finally found what I was looking for here in India with the Ramana Ashram, going to sacred temples. Like, this is just opened my world up entirely. But the progress I made through the different beliefs and religions and cultures have been such a blessing. I would not be here today if it wasn't for being in that room during the chanting of the Quran and reconnecting with God. I would not be here who I am. I would not be here if I hadn't understood that white light energy that another human can hold or activate, like from the Dalai Lama to the Quran to the sacred places in Australia. If I hadn't had all these experiences.
Okay, so I'm editing the video and suddenly this idea pops into my mind that I should mention and discuss something of significance, is those moments when I experience the white light. Where can I begin with this? It's a bit first of all, I must just say that I did not experience the white light in the Christian religion. It wasn't there yet. And maybe that's because I wasn't developed to that stage yet, but it just didn't happen. The first time I experienced the white light is when I was practicing a moving Qigong in Australia when my daughter was a baby. I had experienced an awakening before that when I was in Canada practicing a Qigong movement, and the energy just rushed through my mind and up through the crown chakra, and I just felt pure bliss. Like, it was amazing. So I don't know what that was. I still don't know how to describe it or explain it, but I just, like, the experience is only what I want to explain. So from that moment, okay, and then with my daughter, the next time was in front of the Dalai Lama. I'm trying to remember the experiences in order, but I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job, and maybe I'll remember another time later on after the video's finished. but in front of the Dalai Lama, the white light, and in the room of the chanting of the Quran. That the Muslim man who was doing the chanting of the Quran was so devoted and in love with Allah, so much love and devotion. And when he was reading the Quran, he read it with such conviction. And I think this like total surrender to Allah. And I think the combination of these emotions, when you're so devoted to the God source, it activates the white light. That's the only way I can describe it. I'm not sure if the white light would be activated with every single reading of the Quran. Because if that's true, the whole world would be filled with light. But I know I've never experienced with the reading of the Bible. So there's something different there. I'm just exploring this from like a scientific perspective, right? There's something different. What are we missing in our devotion? What are we missing in our practices where we're lacking the white light? And how can we bring the white light into our lives? Okay, so I'm just trying to remember the different experiences with the white light. Ah, yes. Okay. The white light came to me recently in experience while practicing Kriya Yoga in North India. Kriya Yoga is a practice of meditation. We do not do asanas like, it's a different version of yoga. You don't twist our body into funny positions, but you sit in meditation and you do a practice that opens up your Ida and Pingala, so the energy flows through the Sushumna, through that spinal column, and up to this higher place, Sahasrara. When Guruji, Gurudev, was leading us through the Kriya Yoga meditation, that white light, when we got to that stage of the practice, the white light was activated. And I was like, wow, I can activate the white light with this method as well. I was like, this is fascinating. But I do have my own personal practice that I do step by step that brings me to that higher state of being where I can feel the white light. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's when I'm in full surrender to the God source. Like God is guiding the meditation. I'm not doing it. It's like I don't get the choice when it happens. It's like, oh, I'm going to sit down and activate the white light. It doesn't happen. But when I feel the movement of the God source guiding me, that's when I get to the white light. Another time I remember recently being guided to use the Reiki master symbol to activate the white light. The Western world only knows the watered down version of Reiki as a hands-on healing practice. And a lot of people bring their ego into it and think they're doing psychic readings in the practice of Reiki. But Reiki's not that at all. In fact, it saddens me to know that there's a version of Reiki in the world that's like this. Reiki is similar to the complete practice of yoga that leads you on a journey to spiritual enlightenment. Reiki does that. So when I work with the Reiki master symbol, it has the ability to bring in the white light. So you can see from different beliefs, different religions, that they all lead to getting closer to God. And it's fascinating. There's so many different paths. I mean, God really wants us, wants us to be with him, right? God wants to be in our life. God wants to be, because he's given us so many paths. He's like, come here, take this, take this, take this. Just follow the journey and follow the path, and there you are. So for me, I started on this journey when I was tired of struggling and feeling miserable in life, and I just wanted to feel peace, love, and joy. And that started on my journey way back when I was, before I was a teenager. I wanted to feel the peace, love, and joy of God all the time. And when you set that in motion, then things will appear in your life. And here I am now living in India and eager to explore different spiritual places. Even last night, I thought, oh, wow, I haven't even explored, and I want to explore the Hebrew aspect of the journey to the God source. I don't know anything about it except for a very small amount, and I would like to speak with someone, any from any religion, any culture, any belief system. I would like to speak with these people who have this spiritual knowledge. That would bring me so much joy. Anyone around the world, I would love uh, to meet and sit with. It would just bring me so much joy. Okay, that was a huge interlude in the video.
And even sat in samadhi spots, places of samadhi where these high vibrations are happening. It's been such an amazing and fascinating journey, and I wouldn't be who I am right now if it wasn't for all those experiences. So I'm grateful for everything, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go to more places. I'm ready to explore more sacred places of high power. So, let me know in the comments if you know of something that I'm unaware of right now. Tell me where I should go and what I should experience in order to advance my spiritual practices. So again, I'm so grateful. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm pretty eager to connect with you and inspire you on your personal development and spiritual development, because it is, I started on this journey because I was tired of the struggles and miseries of life. And that propelled me forward. It was my motivation. So the only way to get unstuck from these toxic patterns of struggles and misery is to get closer to God. And there's a lot of ways to do this. It's unlimited because, of course, God is unlimited and almighty, right? So makes sense. Your journey is precious and sacred. So hold it dear and hold it close, but keep moving forward. Yeah, okay. Thanks for watching. Namaste.